Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's tutorial playthrough, we are going to play Operation Battleaxe, Wavell versus Rommel, 1941, designed by Mike Rinella and published by Revolution Games. I do want to thank Revolution Games for sending me this copy to show off to you guys. I do have a recon, which is my unboxing, or in this case, unbagging. It is a folio game. I have that video up, and then I'll have this tutorial playthrough, which I hope to play through the whole game. And then we will wrap everything up with an overview and review coming probably 4 or 5 days after this video goes up. So, maybe a little sooner actually, because I think I may have another game in the queue I want to jump to. But anyway, so this game's been out for a little while now, maybe 10 years or so. It is an area impulse game. So I have the map all set up here, and so this is, we're looking at, for instance, you can see Tobruk. Now this is kind of an off map. The way this map is set up, you have areas here, and this is kind of the central play area. You can also use all of these. These are zones on the outside. So these rectangles on the edges are zones. These are areas, individual areas here. Oh, and by the way, as I'm doing this and I'm explaining this, if you're really familiar with area impulse games, a lot of this will just be redundant. You'll already know this. My apologies, but I kind of want to explain so that way as I'm playing, everyone understands, right? We're all on the same page. So with the area impulse game, in this game in particular, what you're doing is the game is divided up, and this game only has 3 turns. So you can see up here the turn track, June 15th, 16th, 17th. There is an 18th listed, but that's for optional rule for extended. In reality, the normal rules, the game actually ends after turn 17. So there's only 3 turns. Now, how it works, though, is each turn is broken up into multiple impulses. You can see the impulse track right here. During each impulse, each side, in this particular game, allies first, and then the axis will get an action. And it may be activating 1 for the allies, or for the axis 2, if they have still have operational capability. If they are on low fuel, then they only get to activate 1 area. And we'll get into that as we play. But basically, you're activating an area or zone. And then you are, activating all the units within that area. So for example, say you're activating area 9 here for the axis. You're activating these 3 units that are in it. They can then move. If there are already enemy units in the area, they could engage in combat. They could move out. They could move, and like most games, pretty standard. See the counters here. You have a combat value on the left and a movement factor on the right. And there's kind of not a terrain effects chart, but just kind of a movement chart. Movement in this game is not based on terrain. The amount of movement cost, I should say. It's based on, is it area completely vacant? Are there enemy units adjacent to it? They're moving into it. Are there reduced strength enemy units in it? Or are there full strength enemy units in it? Or are you moving in the zones, which are the boxes out here? Which, as you can imagine, takes more movement factor because it's considered, more of a wide area, right? An area that wouldn't fit in this map here. So you're activating areas or zones. You're moving units, engaging in combat. And we'll get into the specifics in the playthrough itself. I just want to kind of cover things. You're running through these impulses, right? So in this game, it is, say you start off turn 1, June 15th, impulse 1. Allies go, then the axis go, and then you move on to the next impulse. Once you get to the 3rd impulse, you're going to go ahead and make a sunset die roll. Now, the game has you actually, I think you're looking at the last die roll that Axis made. It's too hard for me to keep track of that. That is the rules, though, as written. What I do is I just, at the end of the impulse, after each side has went, I just go ahead and roll. You roll 2d6. And what you do is you go ahead and look at the impulse. So that's a 5. If we were on impulse 6, so if it had been less than the impulse, the current impulse, the turn now ends. So depending on the die roll, you may or may not have multiple impulses. You can have up to 12 in a turn. That's very rare. Generally, you usually end up with 6, 7, 8, and then you end up rolling under at some point, but you never know. No 2 games are going to be the same, or at least I should say should have the exact same amount of impulses just because of the way the system works. I like that chaos, by the way. There'll be something I'll mention in my review. And again, this is, area impulse. Mike Rinella does an excellent job with these games, kind of fitting them to the particular campaign that he's covering. He did that really well, in my opinion, with Corregidor. And then spoiler, I guess, I am enjoying this one. So, let's see. We went over the areas, the units, and one last thing is the areas under control. What I'm doing, you have markers for control. You have obviously the Allied side. You're going to have the Axis side on the back. You can either mark every area, or you can go ahead and just mark one, and then, you know, the absence of a marker shows the other side controls it. That's what I do, just reduce map clutter, which is recommended in the rulebook or as a possibility. So what we have is the Allied areas that they control are going to have their marker. If there is a lack of a marker, basically considered it would be Axis controlled. When the point of this game, this particular game, Operation Battleaxe, Wavell versus Rommel, is that the Allies start off kind of on the offensive, right? So you can see it's all Axis units, you know, German and Italian, in this central area. I didn't know a lot about this particular operation, but as usual, when I start getting into a game, I start watching videos, doing readings, and I've learned a lot about it. Historically, you know, it was the Allies launching this operation. They're pushing in. They're coming in from, I guess it would be kind of the east, southeast. They'd be pushing in this way. They were attacking Hellfire Pass. They're attacking Point 206, Fort Capuzzo, etc. And you can see there's VP areas, the red text. The game, the British keep track of the victory points. At the end of the 3 turns, they have to have at least 10 victory points to declare that they're the winners. Or if they, I believe it's, if you can trace a line of supply, which I've not done the other way, I've not done this, trace a complete line of supply, which basically means controlling every area from Tobruk all the way to Buck over here. So somehow some sort of straight line following these arrows, right? Following the arrows or area to area. Just keep in mind you can't cross the escarpment here. You know, that was a big part of, right, the North African campaign was certain terrains. And you can see generally most lines, most areas you can just move from. Normal movement is listed. The very thick line, that's the escarpment here. And then up here, cannot be crossed over. So, yeah, so the goal really, Allies are pushing, gaining victory points at the end of each turn. They'll earn victory points for these areas that they control that have the VPs listed on there. And then towards the second half of the game, the Axis start pushing the British back and try to recapture those areas. They don't gain VPs, but they're just preventing the British from capturing the VPs. So I think that covers it. Yes, you know, combat, actual movement, all that stuff, but we will do that as we play. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so first turn, June 15th, and first impulse, it is the Allied action first. The Allied player now, there's a special rule for the very first activation of the game. The Allied player can activate zones A, B, C, and D simultaneously. So I don't know if you guys can see the letters and numbers. Hopefully you can, but basically, and I'll just explain as I go. A, B, C, and D. Which also, if you look at the letters here for these zones, you see they're in red. Then you look at the letters for these zones are in black. When it comes to tracing supply, the red letter zones are going to be where you trace supply, assuming they control it for the Allies, and the black will be for the Axis. So, Allies, we need to go ahead and activate all of these zones, which is really, like I said before, all their forces kind of, you have the Siege of Tobruk represented over here. But other than that, the Allies are moving west, northwest, attacking the Axis, trying to push them back. So, we'll go ahead and start activating our different areas. Start off with A here. Activating that zone, I should say. Remember, zones are the squares, areas are in here. Activating this zone. We'll start moving. Now, what we can do is we'll move them, 1 unit at a time. Movement factor, each of these is only a 2, and then we have a 5 here. They can move. Now, there's 2 key things. So, for instance, they are moving from here to here because they're entering an area. They're going to go ahead and just look at the area movement, which is enter a vacant area adjacent to an enemy, takes 2 movement factor. So, they'll take all of them. Another thing to remember, though, for instance, there will be a time will come when it'll say you want to enter an area containing full strength enemy units. So at some point we want to attack in here, right? Well, you'd say, well, wait a second, that takes 4 movement factors. These units only have 2, so they can't do it. No, if all they're doing for that turn is moving that 1, they can go ahead and enter the area. It's kind of a lot of games have that where, you can exceed your movement factor as long as it's valid terrain, as long as that's like the only move they do. So, all right, we'll go ahead and move them there. And I'll go ahead and mark the area to show that it is now Allied controlled. All right, let's go ahead and here. So move here. Actually, and with him, it's a vacant area, not adjacent. Oh, he won't be able to move there though because take 2. So 1 and then just stop, 1 and stop, 1 and stop. Move here. And we'll go ahead and mark it now that we control it. Let's move here, 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 and here. So we control it. And finally activating here. Now, one thing to remember, zones have unlimited stacking. However, the areas only have, you can only stack 4 units for each side. So unfortunately, for instance, here we have, you can see there's 5 allied units. They're not gonna be able to all move into one of these areas. They'll have to split up. So they're gonna go ahead, move tank here. And in fact, he can go because he has higher movement, 4. So all these guys, well, he was 4 as well, but we wanna kind of keep them together because I don't wanna, you know, have them strung out by themselves. But this tank has 4. So he can move to here, it's 1. Here it's 2. And by the way, I'm going to mark those off as controlled. And then he could probably, yep, he could move again. Let's see. Well, let's go ahead and move here. 3, 4. So that uses 4. I'm going to mark it off as controlled. 4, all 4 of his movement factor. Him as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. And then this infantry here, let's go ahead. He actually should probably kind of try to meet up with him, huh? So how about this? We'll go 1 here. And then we'll just go ahead and leave him here. And we'll mark this as controlled. Now we have a little bit more areas we control as well. So, all right. So that is it for the allies. They activated all their zones here, moved their units. No one is in, you know, if you had moved them into an area with enemy units, it would become contested. And if you're moving into it at first, it'd be mandatory combat. Or if you'd already been there, you could do optional combat if you want to activate that area or not, anything like that. So we're done with the allied impulse, and now it's the axis impulse. So remember, it's impulse 1. Don't move this yet though, just pointing it out. And another thing that I'm pointing out here, because I want you guys to see it, is this advantage marker. So this is a kind of a key little bit of part of the game. It's like a little wild card. What this is you can, whatever side controls it, which right now obviously it's the allied, whatever side controls it can spend it, and they can spend it to do a variety of different things. You can change the result of an attack. You could change, you know, you can basically increase your defense. You can increase your attack, not by the number, but the actual status. Again, we'll get into it again in combat. You can prolong the daylight, which is basically the sunset die roll. You can go ahead and ignore it. For the allies, you can use it to cause an Axis fuel shortage, which for the rest of that turn, the Axis will be able to activate only 1 area instead of 2. And then also the allies' defenses go up by 2. And then if the Axis have it, they can use it for Rommel, basically saying Rommel is available that turn, and he will be available for 1 attack per impulse, adding a 1d6 die roll. So that's a big help for the Axis when they have them. And finally, you can use it to give yourself an additional replacement point during the refit phase, which you can either rebuild reduce units or put reduce unit back on the map. So right now the allies have it. They're going to go ahead and just sit tight and hang on to it for now. Okay, so yeah, like I said, is the Axis impulse here. Now, there's one thing to remember for the Axis when you start the game, a big thing. Well, there's several things to remember, right? But one thing to remember is that starting the game, the Panzer divisions are not able to be utilized. They're not able to be activated. You know, Rommel was holding them in reserve. He was not allowing them to activate right away historically, so the game represents that. So during June 15th, which we're in, they can't activate at all unless, so until when the turn finishes, then they're free, which by the way, we're talking about the 15th Panzer Division, which is all the units in Area 18 here, which you can see they're nice, powerful units, or the 5th Light Division over here in Zone G. So if it becomes June 16th, they're both free to activate. If any allied units enter any of these zones, then they're both free. Or I believe it's let's see, and then for Tobruk, I believe it's if the allied units here conduct an assault, then it frees them up. And then if any of these areas adjacent to Area 18 become Allied controlled, then it activates the 5th Panzer Division. So we'll just have to keep that in mind as we play. So, all right, so speaking of which, for the Axis here, they're going to get 2 areas they can activate. What they're going to do, let's see, I think they want to beef up Hellfire Pass, so they'll activate Area 17 here. I'll go ahead and move this infantry and move him 1 down here, just a little bit of a backup, a little bit of an increase. And then they're going to activate Area 16 here, the Solemn Barracks, and move this Italian infantry out of this, the barracks right here, move them into Area 17. And that'll be the 2 areas they are activating. Again, so though I think I'd mentioned this before, the Axis have a, what is it, combined operations, I think it's called, meaning that they get to activate 2 until this attack marker gets flipped over to fuel low, fuel shortage, and then they only get 1. So, all right. That was the first impulse for both sides. Now you go ahead and move the impulse marker down. Again, we don't need to make any sort of sunset die roll because you can't, with 2d6, you can't roll lower than, 1 or 2. So we're going to go ahead and just advance it. So now the allies get to go. Allies, so as you're seeing, what you're seeing is the allies get to push. They're pushing heavily the first part of the game and then kind of defending the second half of the game. It's kind of an interesting way that the game works, which is historically accurate. They pushed, and then they got pushed back by the Germans. So let's go ahead and we want to get into some combat here. I don't know if we'll do it right away, but let's go ahead. So what we'll do, the allies, now they don't get to activate 4 anymore, right? That was just that first impulse. So they only get to activate 1 area now. So you have to be kind of careful on where do they want to activate, what do they want to do with their forces here. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and activate Area 3 here and start moving these units. They'll stop here, stop here, stop here. Really, that's all they can move. They only have 2 movement factors, and the 4, he's going to stay with them. They do gain control of that area. And that's it for them. So now it's the Axis impulse. The Axis, let's see, they're looking around. They're kind of thinking, well, where do they have their different, soldiers? Like, what do they want to do? Obviously, they can see the allies are pushing up here. They do want to hold point 206, though. They don't want to lose that. They also want to hold Fort Capuzzo. But knowing if they lose it, the 5th Panzer does activate. It's kind of a, what should we do here? So I'm going to say let's go ahead as the Axis. Let's go ahead and activate Area 17. And so we will, and technically it's called, so technically there's also, just want to make sure that we understand the action. So it's not just an activation thing. So, because I don't think I went through the full, what you can do in an impulse. So I keep saying activating. What I mean by, there's kind of 3 different types of activation. There's assault, which is where you're activating 1 area, and the units in the area can attack or move. And the Axis, right, we have 2 areas technically right now. There's also a regroup, which is every friendly unit can move, but you can't enter enemy-controlled areas and no combat. But it is one way if you had, a bunch of units all over the place you wanted to move. So you could say, like, say the Allies next turn may say, okay, I want to do a regroup to move here and here type of thing, something like that. Maybe last impulse they should have. But that's okay. That's all right. And then consolidate. So what you can do is you can flip, that's the last action, is flip an armor infantry unit to its full strength, but you have to reduce another the same type and nationality, if it's the Axis, right, to its reduced strength side. So you could, beef up 1 unit by hurting another one, assuming the one you're trying to beef up. Generally, you're going to want to do that if it's, a lot stronger. So you can also do that by you may want to be consolidating so that way you can, you don't want to lose your units, because when it comes to the end game, you're checking victory points, the Axis losing units really hurts them. So it actually, each lost unit is counting as a victory point. At least the Germans. Lost Germans counts as for the Allies, which is not good for the Germans. So, all right. So what did I say? We are on the Axis right now. So they, looking around, kind of seeing, they're on the defensive right. So what they're going to do, they're going to go ahead and activate Area 17. And they're going to go ahead and move this Italian unit down here into Area 9. And then they're going to pass on their second action they can take. So now we go to 3rd impulse. And now after this, we'll start rolling. Because now, after this one ends, you would roll the 2d6. If you rolled, Snake Eyes 2, it would be less and it would end the turn. So now we'll start rolling at the end of this impulse. So, allies first, of course. The allies are definitely seeing that they can maybe cause some damage here. So what they're going to do... Oh, that's what they should do. Okay, here's what they will do. So they're going to go ahead and do... They're going to save it. They're going to do some combat, probably their next impulse. They're going to do a regroup action. Every friendly unit may move. Just cannot enter enemy-controlled or occupied areas. And there's another thing, actually. That's why... So what they won't, we're not gonna do a regroup. That's another one too. So, and that's why I forgot that, because I don't use the regroup a lot, because you also can't enter enemy controlled areas. So I can't regroup to move, say, these allies here, because this is axis controlled. So good thing I double checked that. So, all right, what we're gonna do, or the axis, or excuse me, the allies are gonna do, is go ahead and activate area 2 here for assault impulse, and move. He's gonna move here 1, and then here 2. So basically group up with them so everyone's together. All right. Now the Axis Impulse, they're looking around. They like their defenses at Hellfire Pass. They like their defenses here in point 206. Let's see. Everything looks pretty good. Well, it says that's a 2-pointer too, so they don't want to give up any of these areas yet. Actually, what they will do is they'll activate area 15, and they'll go ahead and move this Italian infantry here to area 13, just to kind of beef that up a little bit. It is worth 2 victory points versus 1. So, and then they'll pass on their second impulse. All right, so now we'll go ahead and move the impulse marker down. Before that, do a sunset die roll. Definitely not snake eyes. Yep, 11, so we're totally good. So it moves to the 4th impulse of the turn. All right, now we're going to see some combat. So now it's the allies get to go first. The allies, they're going to start off. They're going to activate area 8 for an assault impulse, and they're going to move into area 9 here. Let me start to reorganize things a little bit just to make it a little more easier to see. Boom, so start moving them in. Start moving them in. Boom, all right. And now the control does not change. It stays Axis until there would be no Axis units. Then it would become Allied controlled. So, all right, let's go ahead and because we're moving into an area and we're now contesting it, combat is mandatory, which we were going to have it anyway, because Allies, that's our boys in khaki, right? They're trying to capture these areas. That's what we want to do. So, all right, let's go ahead and start checking our numbers and everything. So, combat sequence. It's actually, there's several steps to it, but it's not that complicated. There is a very awesome quick play sheet on Wargame Geek that I use, and I recommend you download it and use it because it is fantastic. I don't think I found an error in it. I think it just works perfectly. All right, so first off, we have the attacker and the defender. Now, something I do is I use the dice to keep track of it when I total the combat values. Otherwise, I forget. And then I just sit there and muddle. Combat takes forever for me. So they do not come with the game. In fact, it's a full game where it doesn't come with any dice. You need to provide your own D6s, which I, of course, like to color code a little bit. Khaki, khaki and then the gray. But I use the dice. So, all right, so let's go ahead and calculate. First, we're calculating the attack value, obviously the attackers, and then the defense value. Let's go ahead and just run through the attack value, and we'll stop before we get to the die roll. So, combat value of the lead unit. You get to pick the lead unit you want to attack with. However, you cannot attack as the lead unit with AT, anti-tank. We have, armored, infantry, anti-tank. The anti-tank cannot be the lead attacker. It can be the lead defender, though. And in fact, looking at the axis, it will be. So you go ahead and check the numbers. So we're going to go ahead and pick this this tank right here. Let's just go ahead and move him to the side, so that way we kind of help keep track of the numbers. So we're going to use his, the combat value of the lead attacker, 6. Then we add +1 for each extra unit. So you're not adding up all the combat factors. You're just looking at the lead one, and then you're adding +1 for each. So it starts with 6, 7, 8, 9. Now you're going to check for any air support. The allies are definitely going to commit air support. So in the base game, the Axis do not have any air support available. Now you see the RAF is available, and it's plus a die roll. Now, if it is, by the way, if it's capital DR, that's 2 dice. If it's lowercase DR, that means it's just 1 die. So let's go ahead and roll 1 die. 4, not too bad. So that'll be an extra 4. And then also we're gonna have the allies call for artillery. Now the way it works is artillery is not guaranteed. You can't just say, "Yep, I submit artillery," or I want artillery support. You actually have to see if they're available and are gonna be able to help you. So what you do, you roll a 1d6 for the allies. It's gonna be 1 through 3 not available, 4 through 6 available, 6, so they do have it available. Ooh, they're going to have a hella strong combat power. So, all right. And then finally, you're looking at if you have armored, infantry, and then the anti-tank or flak, so flak, AT, whatever, you get combined arms bonus of +1. So let's go ahead and add everything up together. 6, 7, 8, 9 with extra units, 10, 11, 12, 13 for the air, 14, 15 for artillery, and 16 for combined arms. 16. So what we'll do is we'll take our little orangish, khaki-ish, well, it's orange, but that's what I got. So 16, that's a really nice attack value. All right, now for the defender here, he is definitely going to try to call for artillery. Now, if you look in the areas here, you can see some are circles, right, where the 8, let's say 8 +2, 10 +2, 9 +1. This is not a circle, right? It's actually a shape here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, what is that? Sexagon or something? Or we just call it a hexagon. I don't know, I'm confusing myself. But anyway, the point is, you can see it's not just a circle, right? That means this is a fortified area for the Axis. What's the name? It's got a really cool, the cool British or cool German name for it. What is it? Stützpunkt or something like that. Anyway, I don't know. I think it's kind of a cool word anyway. But basically what that is the Axis, if they're defending that area, they get a +1 in their die roll when they're calling for artillery to show the effectiveness of Italian artillery. So unfortunately, 1 + 1 is a 2. They need at least a 4, so they do not have any artillery available. So let's go ahead and calculate the defense value here of the defenders. So lead is 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you check the terrain for the defender. It's +1, so that's a total of 8. And then that's it. All they have is 8. So I don't think it's going to do so good for the old Axis. So I think our boys in khaki are going to kick some butt here. So, because remember, we tried for artillery, don't get it. We don't have any air support, and they don't get any bonus. They wouldn't get it anyway, but defenders don't get bonus for combined arms. That's an attacker's thing. So 16 versus 8. Now what you do is 2d6 each. We have our dice ready. Obviously gray Axis. And combat will start going a little faster here now that I've explained it for you guys. So 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. So a total of 16. Not too bad. Oh, except the allies are already at 16, and now they're adding 5 more. So go ahead and check the totals, right? So it is, what is it again? So it's 21 versus 16. That is attacker greater than defender. So success. Lead attacker. Now, success. What does that mean? Lead attacker is flipped to the reduced side, just to show that, even during a successful attack, right, like attackers are going to suffer some amount of damage, some amount of wear and tear in their machines, especially in North African and in these campaigns and these operations. There's a lot of tanks and such used to break down quite a bit because of the sand and everything. So, so attackers do, they lose a little bit on their attack. However, success, what that means is now the defending units have to absorb attrition points equal to the difference between the attacker defender. So, it was 21, and then it was 16. So go ahead and 21 minus 16, 5 points. So that's 5 attrition points the defenders have to suffer. Now, you can absorb those attrition points in a variety of ways. You can eliminate a full strength unit. You can reduce units. You can retreat them. The only thing is that Germans cannot retreat full strength units. So you can't the Allies can't retreat a full strength unit at all. It has to be reduced first. The Germans can, unless it's in these Stützpunkt, the fortified areas, then they can't retreat a full strength unit, just to show that, it's kind of, those were those defensive works that they weren't going to be retreating from unless they were hurt. So in that case, since they're in defensive area, they can't just start retreating. Plus, they have to lose 5 anyway, so they're going to have to hurt themselves a little more than that. So what they'll do is they'll go ahead and take 3 of them in Italian unit, my apologies. So completely eliminating a full strength unit takes 3 attrition points. So there's only 2 left. So now they will go ahead and they will take a, reduce here, and that takes each full strength unit flipped to reduce takes 1, and then 2. Oops, and I'm knocking these guys all over the place. All right, and so now they reduced a couple units, so they're still there. So the Allies have not taken control of the area, but they've definitely taken some hits. All right, finish up the combat, and then what you do is any artillery is flipped to their, that was used, is flipped to their used side and is set back in the support area. The aircraft, so that artillery can only be used, each one can only be used once per turn. The aircraft, their support can be used just in the next impulse. So what I like to do is flip it to used, then I put it on the next number on the impulse track. Just to remember, that way when I move the marker down, I know the allies get theirs back, and it's usable now. So that was it for the allies for their activation. The Axis here are looking, and well, it's a tough one because what do? Do they try to hold it? Do they retreat? You know, they're not in a good position, I would say. Let's see. No, continuing there. They're just going to hang on, so the Axis are going to go ahead and pass, actually. So the Axis will go ahead and pass. So now we'll check, make our sunset die roll. 10, so good enough. So the impulse goes to impulse 5. So remember that aircraft goes back for the allies. They can use it again. I find that as I play that the Axis are a little bit more, you know, they're just on the defensive at first. They will get their chance to counterattack. Once they get both of these, you know, divisions here released, then they'll start whooping, or at least trying. So, all right. So is the Allied impulse here. The Allies, they want to continue their attack here in 0.206. So they're going to activate Area 9. So they activate for an assault impulse. So they activate all these forces. And then, just like before, they're going to go ahead and start adding things up. They are going to send in air support again, of course, because why not? Really no, you know, there's no disadvantage to using it other than once you use it once. And again, that's what I like to do is set a die on there just so I remember what it is. Because once you use it, yes, you can only use it once per impulse, but with the allies, they only get to activate one area per impulse anyway. So for them, why not, right? And then they'll go ahead and they will try call for artillery. 4, 5, 6, they get it. Nope, it's a 1, so no artillery. So let's go ahead and check their total. So they'll use this tank as the lead attacker. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then combined arms makes it 11. We'll set our little die there as a little reminder. For the Axis, they will definitely call for artillery. So they get a +1, remember, because it's a fortified area. Boom. So they, no matter what, they would have got it. So they do get their artillery bonus. So they have, lead defender will be this anti-tank. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 for the total because of the terrain. All right, so 11 versus 9. So the Allies not as big of an advantage as they had before, but let's give it a roll. 2d6 each and add it up. Ooh, yeah, good one for boys in khaki. So attackers, 11 plus 7, so they end up with 18. The defenders, the Axis here, 9 plus 3, 12. Ooh, that's brutal. So 12 versus 18. So attack greater than defense, success. So we flip over. Remember, I'll reduce our lead attacker. But then we have 7, and so it's 18. 18 minus 12, 6. So 6 attrition points that have to be suffered here by the defenders. 6, huh? Oh boy, that's gonna hurt him bad. So if we do reduce him, that's 1. So there's still 5 left. And then 2, 3, retreating. That still leaves 2. You can't leave extras. Like you gotta fulfill all of them. So we had 6, we reduced 1, that's 1. So now we only have 5 left. I'll go ahead and 1, 2. So we'll eliminate both of these. That's 2 each. So 2 attrition points for eliminating. So that's 1 attrition point left, which will go ahead and retreat the anti-tank. Treat it here to area 17. So, all right. So let's go ahead and finish up our combat. So our markers used. Same thing with aircraft. Get the dice out of the way. All right, and now the Allies have taken control of that area. Boom. So it'll be worth 1 victory point at the end of the turn if they're able to hang on to it. So beautiful for them, looking good. All right, man. Okay, and then that was the Allies impulse. So now the Axis impulse. Axis, things are looking a little rough right now. That's what I would say. So they're going to go ahead and they don't want to be completely cut off here. So what they're going to do is they're going to activate Area 6, and they're going to move this Italian infantry, for an assault impulse, and they're going to move him over here. So, all right, and that's it. And then they're not going to do anything else. So that ends their impulse. We go ahead and do our sunset die roll, 6, 7, 8, or 6, 9. That's higher, so no worries. So it goes to impulse 6. Allies get their hacker back. All right. I think that the forces here, they're a little beat down a little bit, so they're going to hold tight. So what the allies are going to do is they're going to go ahead and activate with an assault impulse area 14. They're going to start moving their forces here into area 13. Boom. 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 And boom. If I can get them up in there. Yeah, I'm trying to fit them all in there. Make sure we got all of them. I'm actually going to move him here, but yes, they're all in that area still. Okay. All right. And then because they're moving into that area, it's going to be a mandatory combat, which that's what our boys in khaki wanted anyway, right? They wanted to push them out of here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm definitely going to commit our air support. Why not? Let's give it a roll. A 1, not so hot. That's okay. And they'll call for artillery as well. 4 through 6, did not get it. Ooh, not so good on the support, but that's okay. That's okay. What are we looking at then? So we'll use him as the lead attacker. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have combined arms because we have the 3 types. So 10 total. Not nearly as good as we were hoping, but it's okay. 10 total. And then for the Axis, they'll definitely call for artillery. They're in a fortified area, so they get a +1. So that 3 becomes a 4. So because of the +1, they do get artillery support. All right, so they'll definitely use their flak as the lead defender because he has a 6. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, and then 11, 12 because of the terrain. So they actually have higher than our boys in khaki. Uh-oh. Let's give us a roll, see what happens. All right, great roll for us. Not so good for the whole Axis here. All right, so 12 plus 6, so 18. Boom. 10 plus 10, 20. Whew. All right, so attacker greater than defender. That's a success, barely, but it's a success. So we do flip over our lead attacker, unfortunately. But then 2 attrition points, which is not that bad, but they have to suffer 2 attrition points. So the Axis, they're going to go ahead and take 1, 2. So they'll just reduce these 2 infantry units here. All right. A little recovery here. Flip him. And Axis artillery. Boom. All right. And now no change of control, remember, because it was German controlled or Axis controlled, and they're still there. So, okay, I think that looks pretty good there. All right, so that is for the Axis now. Their activation. They are not gonna attack. That is not. It just doesn't pay off for them. They're gonna go ahead and pass. They're waiting to get their forces unlocked. Which actually, hang on a second. Do they get those forces? Let me check. I got the rule book here. Sometimes you're gonna have to check it. I can't, or at least I have to, because I can't remember exactly. So let's see. The 15th Panzer Division, which is in Area 18. If Area 6 becomes Allied controlled, Hellfire, pass. Any area adjacent to Area 18 becomes Allied controlled. So nothing yet. And then any Allied units enter these zones or the 5th turn. Okay, so they're still not released. They're still not released yet, not technically. All right. So yeah, so the Axis will go ahead and pass. Let's make a sunset die roll. 12, so moves on to 7 here. All right. Getting their air support back. Allies are going to go ahead and activate. Well, should I do that? What I'm trying to do, guys, so if you look at the you can see we have, we've got our forces up here. I want to get these units up here, though, sooner rather than later. So let's go ahead and, let's go ahead and activate Area 4. we'll start moving. I kind of want to go. The stacking is going to hurt me a little bit here. So actually, let's do this. Let's do, well, no, because it's adjacent. Agent enemy units, they're not going to be good enough for that. Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and activate Area 4 for an assault impulse. We'll start moving units up. I'll go ahead and stop here in Area 7. And we'll get a little control marker there. Boom. All right, now the Axis. Axis, again, they're sitting tight. They're waiting. They know that, as soon as Rommel, gets off his behind and says, hey, wait a second, send these guys in, they're going to have the, maybe a little bit of advantage on the attack at least. So they're going to sit tight till then. So they'll go ahead and pass. Let's check the impulse. So, so sunset die roll. Oh, 7. So 6, 7. So on the sunset die roll, if it is less than the current impulse, the phase ends. It is not less, it's equal. So it does continue. Bad luck for the Axis, because they definitely want it to get to the next turn. But they don't have the advantage, they can't change anything. So, all right, so now it is the Allies' impulse. They're going to go ahead and do a, let's see. Should do the regroup, I think. Yep, here's what, this is a tough one. Okay, so they're going to go ahead and do a regroup. So what they're going to do, the Allies are going to do a regroup. So they can move every unit if they want to. They just can't enter enemy-controlled areas. So, or should I focus on that? Oh, no. What should we do, guys? What do you think? Let's do the regroup. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to move these units down here, which is we control it, so they can go move right in. And now these units will move right into point 206. Fingers crossed, this maneuvering, time spent maneuvering, will pay off. But we shall see. Okay, let's go ahead and do it's Axis now. Axis, they're going to pass. They're passing. They're just trying to get to that next turn, so they'll go ahead and pass. Let's do a sunset die roll. 12, so it does continue. So it moves to the 9th impulse. Woo-wee. Not so good news for the Axis. Oh, those poor guys. Who cares? All right, so we will go ahead as the Allies. We will activate area. But we don't want to activate them too bad. Oh, no. I don't like, let's go ahead and, actually at this point, why not, right? So as the Allies, we're going to activate Area 9 for an assault impulse. We're going to go ahead and move them into Fort Capuzzo, which means we take control of it. And boom, we are taking control. All right, and that's it for the Allies. Now it goes to the Axis. Now, 15th Panzer is released, and I don't think the 5th Light is, though. Nope. So the 15th Panzer, Rommel says, wait a second. Allies control an area adjacent. No. We got to get those guys in this, so they are now released. So they can be activated. Now, I will say that so it's a tough one, though, because where do they want to send them? Straight down here. They can only send one over there anyway. That's not really going to work out too well. So, yep, I think that's what they're going to do. Oh, but they don't even have artillery. They don't have any support from anybody, do they? Be a tough one. How much is this worth? 1 victory point. You know what? They're going to go ahead and pass. So go ahead and check, see what happens. The Axis are passing. 5, 6, 7. Boom. Less than the impulse. Turn ends. The maneuvers phase ends, which all the impulses. So, all right, so we go to supply check. This is where we check, remember, if it is a red letter zone, see if we can trace a path to our allies. Yep. Now, then you check for the black letter zone, see if we can trace a path for all the, yep, totally can. So everyone's in supply. Usually people are in supply. If they get cut off, then they're out of supply. But for the most part, you're going to find that your troops usually stay in supply. Like I said, unless they get completely surrounded and cut off. So, all right, now the refit phase. This is where each side gets 1 refit point, unless if you have the advantage marker, you can go ahead and use that to gain 1 additional replacement point. Allies are not going to do that. They have the advantage. They're going to save it. They got an idea. So let's go ahead and do. The Allies go first. So with the replacement point, each replacement point, you can either rebuild a reduced unit onto the map, or you can take 2 reduced units on the map and flip them to their flip them to their full strength side, which is what they will do. So I'll go ahead and hit him because he definitely still involved in combat. And then right here, put him over as well. Boom. All right, and now the Axis, same thing. They have 1 point. They have a couple different units. They're just going to flip these guys over, kind of get them back to full strength. They would reduce Italians too, but too bad for them. All right, that's it for the refit phase. Now it's the end phase. So a couple things. So we'll go ahead and advance the turn marker. It is now June 16th. Move the impulse marker back down to 1. We'll go ahead and gain any used support units back, which is the artillery. And then victory points. So you're checking for the turns, you're checking for what areas are controlled by the Allies. So point 206, 1 VP, CDMR, 1 VP, and then they control, is this 1 or 2? For Caputo is just 1. So 1, 2, 3. And they don't control point 208 yet. So 1, 2, 3. So go ahead and move that up to 3. Is that all they have, huh? Okay, all right, fair enough. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. It's not bad at all. So remember, I mentioned this at the beginning, the Allies win at the end if they have 10 VPs. And once they've gained the VPs, they don't lose them. So even if, and I'm guessing probably will, because it's usually how it happens, the Axis start pushing Allies back, they're not going to lose the VPs, right? The Axis don't gain those back for taking the areas. So, all right. That's it for the end phase. Like I said, now it's the next turn here. So it's June 16th, first impulse. Allies get to go first. Now what they're going to do, they're going to go ahead and right away use the advantage marker. Now what you do is, remember I said you pick something. What they're going to do is the Axis fuel shortage. So we flip this attack marker over, the turn marker really, to its fuel low. That shows that the Axis, they don't get combined operations, so they only get to activate one area. And Allied defense values in their different areas are +2. So when the Axis are attacking, the Allies, their defenses are a lot better. What you do though is once the advantage marker is used, which it just was for the Allies, you go ahead and flip it over to the other side to show that the Axis will get it, and you put it on the next part of the impulse to show that they will get it back. Either the next impulse, or if the turn ends there, they'll get it back then immediately. So, all right, I think that's it though, right? Yeah, that's it for setting everything up, and that was the first action there. Now the Allies, they have their able to activate. So what are they going to do here? A couple of things. They'd like to take this area. They also want to move their forces up to secure point 206. They don't want to lose it to a little, sneaky action here. So what the Allies will do is they'll activate. Oh, wait, they have. Okay, that won't really help them though. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and activate area 8, assault impulse, and they'll go ahead and start moving. Move them out of the way. Move their forces up here. And now remember, and now it goes to the Axis impulse. So Axis side of the impulse. And remember the Axis now, because it is June 16th, not only will the 15th Panzer was released anyway, now the 5th Light Division is also released. So, all right. So I think what we'll do here, what should we do? So for the Axis, they're going to go ahead. They don't have the advantage yet. Advantage marker, I should say. So what they'll do is they'll just activate Zone G, and they'll go ahead and move their forces here. Kind of secure this area, make sure nothing happens. Boom. And because, remember, the low fuel, they don't get to do 2 activations, only the 1, so that's it for them. So, all right, Impulse moves to 2, and now the Axis get the advantage marker. All right, Allies Impulse. At this point, they're really looking kind of more defensive-minded. They want to hang on to their areas because if they've already eliminated a couple units. If they keep hanging on to these areas, 1, 2, and they captured, remember, so what is it, 1, 2, 3, and if they can get that one, well, they do want that one, don't they? So, okay, I think that's what they'll try to do. So that's exactly what they're gonna do. Okay, so they want this area here. They want, what is it, 0.208, because that's worth 2 VPs. They'd love to get those at the end of the turn. So they're going to activate that area, activate their troops there for an assault impulse, and engage into combat. They'll definitely send their air support in. Why wouldn't they? Come on, boys. RAF, come on. Oh, come on. A 1. Oops, it was cocked eye. Reroll. Just kidding. And then they're going to try to send in air support. So call for artillery. A 1, 0. Jeez. So no artillery either. Oh boy. Bad luck. All right, so lead attacker, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then they have combined arms. Yep, so 10. Ugh. Really, we're hoping for a lot more than 10. That's not good. It's all right. It's all right. Our boys in khaki will do just fine. And then the defender, lead defender, they're definitely going to pick the flak. So that's 6, 7, 8. And then the area, 9, 10. And the axis will call for artillery, +1, which is a failure. 3 is a failure. No called artillery. So what did I say? They're at 10 also. So straight die roll, basically. See what happens. Not what our allies wanted, but it is what it is. Let's roll. A tie. Oh man. So all right. So tie, right? So 10 + 5, 15. 10 + 5, 15. That is a stalemate. So what it would be is the lead attacker and lead defender are both flipped to the reduced side, or eliminated if reduced. So however, let me see. Well, okay, yeah, that's what'll happen. So the attacker was up here. Ooh, flying away. Flip him over, and the defender flip him over. All right. It's kind of looking to see. So what we'll do. Sorry, guys. I'm just thinking here. I'm just thinking my strategy. So anyway, that was the allies, right? Doing their attacks, and now it is the Axis impulse. What do the Axis want to do? They want 0.208. They don't like what's happening in there right now, though. So what they're going to do, they're going to go ahead and... if only had more stacking space there. So they're going to activate point 13, or area 13, excuse me. And they are going to move this flak back to area 19. And then they will move both of these here. So they are relinquishing area 13. I know it's a risk, but... And so the allies will take it. It's a risk, but I think... The Axis, they have a plan. They want to kind of free up the area because they want to launch a big old attack next impulse. So, all right, speaking of next impulse, let's go ahead and move the impulse marker down. Boom, now we'll start making a sunset die roll. Okay. All right, the British, they're feeling pretty good. They got all these areas. They control, the VP areas. Maybe down here, I guess, they could try to get Hellfire Pass. Should they? Yes, they're going to try. You know what? It ain't over yet, right? They want to get Hellfire Pass. So they're going to activate Area 5 for an assault impulse. Let's go ahead and move these guys out of the way because we got to make some room. And so we'll start moving units in. And see what they can do. Okay. All right. So definitely going to do air support, of course. 2. And then the allies will call for artillery. Remember, 4 or higher. No good. The Axis will call for artillery. So they need help. 3, but it's a fortified area. So it becomes a 4, so they do get artillery. Not so good for news for the allies here. All right, so what do we got here? We got lead attacker, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that it? Oh boy, that's not good. Not good at all. So 8. And then the defender leads, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's +3 from the terrain, so 13. Ooh. Yeah, we maybe shouldn't have sent our guys in there, but that's okay. Let's do it. Hey, you never know what's gonna happen. Let's roll. Let's roll the dice. Oh, and tied for that, which means less than. So for instance, 13 + 6, 19, 8 + 6, 14. So attack is less than a defender. That is repulsed. All attackers are flipped to the reduced side, eliminated if already reduced, and then retreat is required if it was a mandatory assault, which since we moved into the area, it was a mandatory assault. If we'd already been there, already been contested, it wouldn't be. So retreat. Oh, man, that's a bummer. So let's go ahead and start moving some. Let's just move these dice out of the way. These dice out of here. Get them out of my face. They're terrible. Flip him over. Thanks for the great air support. And remember, all the attackers are flipped to the reduced side. And they'll have to retreat. So let's go ahead and retreat back to Area 5 here. Yeah, I think Hellfire Pass, that's one tough nut to crack. Just like it was historically. All right. Well, that's it for... all right. That's it for the Allies Impulse. So now it's the Axis Impulse. So what the Axis are going to do, they got some plans here. So here's what they're going to do. They're going to use their advantage marker. They're going to activate Rommel, basically. Rommel underspits. During each impulse, one attack may add a die roll of 1d6 to an Axis attack. It's canceled by the end of the maneuvers phase. So basically for this turn 16 here, the Axis, when they're attacking, each impulse, you're going to get one attack in. Think of it, I mean, it's like giving the Axis the equivalent of an air support marker that the Allies have. So, but we'll go ahead and put the marker, on the Allied side and put it there. All right, so show that next impulse. Okay, so now the Axis get to go ahead. Let me just check something on the camera. Yep, gotta make sure it was good. Thought I heard a beep on there. You don't want to hear that beep and then it stop recording. So, all right. All right, what do we got here? So, yep, so they have Rommel. So what I do for that is I take one of the D6s for the Axis, and I just put it in the Axis support just as a kind of a reminder and mnemonic for myself that says, hey, look, you have that D6, which is represented by Rommel. Because I don't think there's a Rommel counter that came with the game, unfortunately. I suppose you could maybe do something like use one of the markers if you wanted, whatever. So, anyway. Yeah, so they definitely want to do some hurting here, but will they be able to? I guess we'll see. So, let's try. All right, I could use that +1, huh? But they're not gonna get it. So what the Axis will do, they'll activate Area 19 for an assault impulse, and they're gonna go ahead and move in. They're gonna be starting moving in. So a little bit of a tough one here. We're running out of real estate, but he was reduced. These units here are moving into Area 13, which was, what is it, 0.208 to attack the Allies there. I'm just going to make a little bit of a line. But trust me, they're moved in there. If we had the real estate, we'd have them moved in there. So, okay. The Axis will definitely commit Rommel. So, 1d6. A 1. Oh, man. Sucks to be them. And then they will attempt to use their artillery. So, we'll call for artillery. It's a 6, so that's successful. So, they get that at least. Now, the British... they don't have air support. They used it, remember, during their attack. But they will try for artillery. No bonus for defender for them, but they get it anyway. All right, I think that's it. So let's go ahead and start adding stuff up. So lead attacker will be this tank unit. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Aw, poor Germans. They don't have a very good attack. Too bad for them. Our defenders, we're going to get bank over here. Watch this. So let's do lead defender. Let's actually use, I don't want to reduce no, let's go ahead and use the tank here so we get the max. This tank squadron. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Terrain adds 2, so that's 12. Plus, because of the low fuel, remember, the Allies, when they're defending, get a +2. So that 12 becomes a 14. Woo-wee. So not too bad. 3 more. Not a guarantee, but definitely helps. All right. It's up to that die roll. Let's see. I rolled an extra. Okay, that's my bad. I rolled an extra D6. Never mind. Let me re-roll, guys. My apologies. So, 1, 2 of each. Extra one gets out of there. We're cheating there. Come on, British. No shenanigans. All right, here we go. So we have 14 plus 5, so 19. 11 plus 6, 17. Is it 11 plus 6, right? Yep, 17. Oh, so 17 versus 19. Oh, attacker less than defender. Attacker is repulsed. Oh, that's brutal for the poor little lambs, Germans here. So remember, repulsed, every attacker is reduced, and if it was a mandatory combat, which it was because they're moving into the area, they have to retreat. Oh, and this flak was already reduced, so he is eliminated. And mark him as used. Let's get these dice out of here. Let's get all these dice out of here. Woo-wee. And used. Boom. Oh, absolutely brutal for the poor little Germans. So, yeah. Our allies hanging on tight to all their VP points right now. That's it for the Germans activation. So impulse. Oh, I make a die roll check though. Sunset die roll. 12, so nope. Moves to 4, which means also, by the way, the British get the advantage marker back and they get their air support back. Woo, looking pretty good. Now they don't want to lose anything to the backdoor action here of like sneaking down. So what they'll do is the British can go ahead and activate area 9. He'll go, that should be 1. No, he's adjacent to him, so hang on. But he can go 1, 2. Yep, and then I'll be able to 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll be able to move there. Perfect. Just to make sure that they hang on to the area, and then put a marker there, by the way. Control marker. So make sure that they're kind of got a little bit of line here. They don't want the Axis maybe sneaking down here. So, all right, that's it for the Allied impulse. Now we'll do the Axis impulse. Oops, and we do have the extra. We still have Rommel. We have Rommel through the full. The Axis have Rommel through the full turn, right? Just remember that. Okay, so the Axis, well, they got a whooping over there. They can't afford anything else with those guys. But they're not giving up yet. So what they'll do is they're going to go ahead and attack. They're going to activate Area 18 here for an assault impulse, and they're going to move down to 15. So let's go ahead and start kind of making some room. Probably one downside, I mean, you have these units. The map is good size. I want it to be bigger, definitely not tall-wise, but you get a little scrunched up here in the areas with these, as you can see. So a little bit of a pre-review commentary. So they're moving in, and that's a military combat. Oh, I want to be able to see that defense number, though. All right, beautiful. All right, let's do the attackers here. So let's go ahead and roll for Rommel. Definitely obviously going to commit Rommel. That's a 3. And, oh, no artillery left because they used all theirs. The British will definitely use their air support with a 5. Actually, I think I might be making a mistake here on this. Hang on, let me double check. Sorry, guys. Let me double check. I think, actually, I may have been using them on defense when you can't. I just realized that. I'm like, I think I've been using the air support on defense when I think the air support's only for offensive actions. Oops. Air support. Once per allied assault impulse. Yeah, can't do on defense. That's my bad. Oops. They may have changed some stuff before. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. So, no air because, well, can't use it on defense. Where'd he go anyway? Did I put him somewhere? There it is. Yeah, go back here. Only when they're attacking. Fair enough, fair enough. The allies will call for artillery. And they fail on that. So remember, they need a 4 or higher. So, all right, I think that'll be it. So let's go ahead and check for lead attacker him. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 for the Germans. And for the defenders, we'll do lead defender here. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with terrain. And then remember, low fuel, 9, 10. So only down by 1. So, well, our boys in khaki may have some luck here. Let's give it a roll. Give it a roll. Boom. Oh, is it going to be a... Oh, no. Okay, so attackers will end up 21. Defenders, 19. So attack greater than defense. So we do flip over. Success, but we do flip over. Although, actually, what we'll do is, the allies will use their marker, changes a called fanatical defense, and the defender turns a success into a stalemate. So they'll use it. And so now that success turns into a stalemate, which means both get flipped over. And then that's it. All right, that's not bad. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. They are still in the area, though. Fighting over it. Okay. And that's it for the Axis. So we'll go ahead and do a sunset die roll. 6, so nope, so it goes on to the 5th impulse. and the Axis gain the advantage. All right, so allied action here. I think that the allies feel like pretty good about maybe attacking over here. So they're gonna go ahead and activate area, what is it? Area 11. Move their units here and engage in some combat for sure. And they will use their air support since they can use that on their attack for assault impulse. My bad for using on the defense earlier. Whoops, that changes things a little bit, just a little bit. All right, so that's a 5 on that. And then they can't use artillery. And Rommel can only be used during, I know Rommel can only be used during attack. So, all right, so for attacker, it's 6, 7, 8, 9, plus 5, 14. Plus it is combined arms, becomes 15. Holy cow, that's a good force right there. 15, huh? And the defenders, it's going to be, use him as the primary defender, 2, and then 3, and then plus 1 for the train becomes 4. 15 to 4. Ooh. Good luck for those poor Germans. And they roll horribly. 7 versus 21. So attacker's greater than success. But here's the deal. Not only that, so normally, remember, you flip the lead attacker, and then they have to suffer losses. Well, they're going to have to suffer, what is it, 21 minus 7, so 14 attrition points. They can't suffer all the attrition points. So first of all, they're eliminated. These 2 units, so eliminating him from full strength would be 3. Eliminating him from reduced is 2, so a total of 5. It's not enough to cover all of them, so they're still eliminated. So that, you use as many attrition points as you can. And then because not all attrition points were used up, it's called overrun. The lead attacker, not flipped, so he stays full strength. And then all the attackers may immediately activate for a second time and may move into an attack into one additional area. Also, air support gets kept. So we took this area here, which is beautiful. So the allies are going to go ahead and overrun, and they're going to move into area 19 and engage in another combat, because why wouldn't they at this point? And they have their air support here. Boom. All right, so let's get these dice out of here, though. All right, let's see what happens. So 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh no, what was he at? Oh no, I don't remember what the air support was. Crap. Well, we'll re-roll it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all odds anyway. So 4. That sounds about right. Damn, I picked up the dice by accident. Oh well. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Plus combined arms, so it becomes 14. So I think it was 1 less. I think he must have been a 5 before. So 14 for our British troops. For the defending Germans, let's see. Lead defender will be this tank here. 3, 4, 5, 6 for the terrain. And he doesn't have anything else available, so it'll only be 6. Oh boy. Yep, they're about to get crushed. Yep, so 4, so that becomes 10. 14 plus 6 becomes 20. So 10, so success. Success, so that's 10. Now, I wonder if you can do a second overrun in a row. I know you can't move again, but what I'm trying to do is see if I can save. So it's going to be an overrun situation, right? So eliminating, they have 10 attrition points. Eliminating each of these reduced, 2, 4, 6. Let's just do that now. Just get them out of the way. So that's 6 attrition points. 4 left. So it's an overrun situation. I know you can only do it once in the sense that because you can't do overrun, just like move across the whole map. But I'm trying to remember if they would at least be able to save the lead unit from taking the damage. You know what I mean? Let's go ahead and check. Where's combat at? Okay. There's no additional overrun after the second combat. Okay. And just as an FYI, you cannot do an overrun if it's on an X-controlled defensive area. So remember the hexagon shape. So anyway, so we'll just go ahead and it says no second overrun, so we'll just take the loss. We'll take that. That's okay though, because the good news is for our allies here is we freaking got this area as well. Put a control marker there worth 2 VPs. So all right, so now we will go to the Axis. Axis are going to go ahead and engage in a combat right here, with, of course, activating that area. Rommel for 6. They have nothing else to activate. The British are going to call for artillery. 2, which is fails, so they do not get their artillery. Let's go ahead and check it. So lead attacker will be this tank unit here. So 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus 6 is 13. So good for them. Good for them. But the British are going to have, let's see, lead defender, we'll pick him. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Area plus 2, so 7. And then the low fuel becomes 9. Okay. Looking pretty good for the British, or excuse me, for the Axis on that one. So let's go ahead and roll. So, yep, so 3, 4, 5. So 13 plus 5, 18. 9 plus 4, 13. So success. So we will flip him over. Lead attacker success. And then, what did I say was 18, 13. So that leaves 5 left over. So for 5 attrition points that they have to resolve, I'll go ahead and 1, 2, 3, just eliminate him. And then 4, and then 5. Okay, that'll be it for them. So now we go to the, make our die roll, sunset die roll. 5, 6, so not quite there. Move down, boom. All right, the British are gonna go ahead and they're gonna activate their forces here. They're gonna retreat them away. Area 9 here, which does, the Germans do take control of this area back. And now the Axis will go ahead and then on their impulse, they're going to go ahead and activate area 15 with an assault impulse. They're going to attack 13 and start moving them over. Let's pretend they're all in there. So obviously they have Rommel still. Remember, they have them the rest of this turn. 6. Woo-wee! The Allies will try to call for artillery, which is a roll 6. That's successful, so they do get the +2 for that. So lead attacker will be this tank here. So 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a total of 12. Pretty good. Pretty good. But what are our allies going to have? I think they'll have pretty good too. Let's see. Lead defender will choose this tank unit here. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then the low fuel becomes 14. Oh, it is good. 14, baby. Whew. Uh-oh, not so good for old Axis. Let's see what happens. Oh, horrible die roll for our allies. So 14 plus 4, only 18. 12, 7, 19. Just good enough. So that is a success. So lead attacker is flipped over, which he was already reduced, so he will be eliminated. And then it was, what was it? 2 points. So they'll go ahead and flip this infantry and the here. All right. And the Axis are in the area here. Now I'm about to tell you something, guys, though, because I know if you haven't played it yet, play this game yet, you don't realize like the Axis, they're gonna lose this game. There's no way for them to win now at this point. Not only obviously you see all these VP areas actually, which you might be like, yeah, maybe, but also all these eliminated, because every German eliminated unit at the end of the game, I should say, counts as 1 VP, and the Allies only need 10. So they already have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 here. Now remember, you can build back a couple, but yeah, they're not gonna be able to make it up. So, but let's play a little bit. Let's play out the rest of this turn and see what happens. So, all right, that was it for the Axis, right? So now we do a sunset die roll. 5, 6. That's the same as the impulse, so it does go to the next impulse. All right, the Allies here, obviously they can see there's all kinds of shenanigans going on. Should they attack? Should they? No, they're just gonna hold tight, I think. Yeah, they're sitting pretty good. So the Allies will go ahead and pass on their turn. The Axis definitely want to continue attacking here, so they'll continue with Rommel. So activating, Area 13, with Rommel, so that's use him as the lead attacker. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, and then for defense, it is him as the lead defender. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, and then I'll try to call for a save. And they do succeed. It becomes 14. So you get 14. Yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Roll. All right, 8 plus 8, so 16 for the, oh, excuse me, that's the wrong group. 14 plus 8, so 22. 8 plus 8, 16. Yeah, that is a repulsed. However, the Axis do have the advantage. They're going to use their advantage marker to make that repulse become a stalemate. So lead attacker and lead defender are flipped over. Lead attacker, he is eliminated because he was already reduced. And that lead defender was right here. He'll be eliminated as well. I think that'll be it for them. Used up. And used up. That was from the other turn. I think that's it. All right. So then now we check, do we sunset die roll? 3. So turn ends, or the maneuvers phase ends, I should say. So check for supply. Supply. And supply. Remember, I'm going to check red zones, Allies, black zones. They have there. Yep, so they're good. Everyone's in supply. Refit phase, 1 point each. So the Allies, by the way, at the turn ended, so they get it. And most ends they get there. The Allies are going to go ahead and they have a lot of reduced units. I'll give them that, but they're going to flip him over. And then how about this tank right here? Yeah, flip him over. That's 2. And then the Axis, they're going to go ahead and spend their point to bring a reduced unit back, and they get to put him where they want him. So go ahead and move him here. Basically any controlled area of theirs. All right, now the end phase. So we'll check for the, what is it? So automatic victory would be if the Allies can have a, which they actually almost do have it. Literally all they have to do is this. So, which we maybe could have done on their turn if they'd wanted, but I didn't even think of it. So if you automatic victories, if you can trace a line of supply for Allies from Tobruk, which is controlled, see, and then all the way, remember to Buke. I think I actually said that before. So for instance, it would be here, you can see all the controlled by Allies here, or here, down here, over here, up here. So if they had control, and then here too. So actually, if they just controlled zone G, that would be an automatic victory. But also, let's go ahead and add up the VPs here. So 2 for this area. They don't control this area anymore, and they do control here because it's just contested, but they're last to control it. So hang on, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 plus 3 puts them at 9. So that is, they're not at 10. It's not an automatic victory. However, so they get at the end of turn 17, so the next turn. So let's say now we go to turn, which by the way, fuel goes back to normal. Turn 17, impulse down here. Okay. Here's how it works. And then everyone gets their markers back. And I'm going to call the game clearly because the Allies are going to win here. So not only we had 9 victory points, all the allies have to do is hang on to at least one of these 1 VP areas, which if you look at the makeup of the forces, yes, the Axis could maybe squeeze a couple of these guys, get them over here, get another force going, maybe take back, here, probably could. I don't know if they're going to be able to take back all of these as well. In addition, at the end of the game, you check, like I said, for every eliminated German unit, it's worth 1 VP for the ally. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 8 onto there, and all the allies need to do is get to 10. So I would call this a resounding allied victory. We're calling the game. I'm not gonna play with the last turn. You guys don't know how to play it, and there's absolutely no chance for the allies to come back, or the Axis, excuse me. So fun game. Love area impulse style games. I will say that I see the allies whoop on the Axis quite a bit. I did realize I was making a mistake as I was playing, which was I was using the allies air support during their defensive, which you're not supposed to be able to. It's only during the offensive, so that probably has impacted it. Definitely impacted it at least a couple times. So that would help the Axis when they're on the attack. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Do not use allied air support during allied defenses. However, we definitely also had some lucky die rolls. Our boys in khaki had a lot of lucky die rolls, and there were a couple times the Axis were rolling poorly, which is just chaos, right? Chaos factor, bad luck rolling. It happens sometimes. So allies just whooped some Axis butts, and there you go. I mean, they won eventually anyway, so, right? Who cares? They won a little bit earlier this time. Historically, the allies pushed up. They were able to kind of take these areas here, these VP areas, but then when the Axis brought their 5th Panzers, or excuse me, 5th Light Division and the 15th Panzer Division down, they pushed the allies back, and the allies ended up kind of retreating, getting their forces out of there before they were surrounded, and were kind of pushed back. So historically speaking, but not what happened with our game. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully that helped you learn the game, and hopefully you have a good idea how the game works. And like I said, I'll probably have an overview and review, less emphasis on the overview since I just did a full game playthrough. Well, close enough. I didn't play with the last turn, but it's over anyway. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know below what you thought of the video. Let me know what you think of the game. If you played it before, what's your experience? Have you been whooped like that before for the Axis and had your allies whoop them, or is it the opposite? Let me know below and comment. And if you're not subscribed, all that, of course, do that, please. I would appreciate it. So until next time, guys, later.